Chapter 19 New York and Nathan Hale. As boat after boat disgorged its redcoats on the shores of Gravesend, at least the suspense of awaiting the blow was ended for New York. But there was small hope of holding the city against Howe's superior force. The Battle of Long Island was a crushing defeat to the American forces. At Jamaica Pass, on the Flatbush Road, and at the site of the Greenwood Cemetery, 2 divisions were surprised and overcome. A 3rd division, under General Stirling, was stationed at Cortelyou House, near a bridge crossing the Gowanus Creek, at about the junction of 10th Street and 5th Avenue in the Brooklyn of today. And when he discovered that the enemy hemmed him in on 3 sides, he faced about with 300 Maryland troopers and made a desperate counterattack. The little body was hacked to pieces, and he himself was captured, but the act of bravery gave the main body of troops a chance to escape. Their escape seemed only a temporary one, however. Crippled and disheartened, the little remnant lay cooped up on Brooklyn Heights, facing complete annihilation at the hands of the British. 2,000 of their comrades had been slaughtered, and 3 of their best officers made captive. In the meanwhile, the leisurely Howe, within earshot of his victims, awaited a convenient moment to reach out and put a stop to the revolution. But the night of August 29th was darkened by a heavy fog, and no unusual sounds penetrated it to alarm the British sentries. When the sun arose in the morning, great was their dismay, therefore, to find that Washington's entire force had melted from Brooklyn Heights. Brigade after brigade had been rowed silently across to Manna-Hatin and safety. On Manna-Hatin, General Putnam and his force were stationed in the region of 15th Street, but Howe's forces were able to get behind him by making a successful landing at Kip's Bay, near 34th Street, utterly routing the militia there on guard. Again, the fate of the American army was hanging by a very slender thread. As Washington galloped among the fleeing Kip's Bay defenders, trying in vain to rally them, he was keenly aware how easily the English general could throw his line of redcoats across from the east to the Hudson River, trap Putnam's forces, and end the war. General Putnam was having the same thought, and had about given up the idea of marching his wary soldiers up the Bloomingdale Road in the broiling sunshine to meet Howe's superior force at the crossroad near Murray Hill. His 2 eager young aides, Alexander Hamilton, now 19, and Aaron Burr, 20, were of another mind. Burr knew every inch of Manhattan, and offered to conduct the troop by shortcuts and bypaths to safety. Hamilton and his student artillery division marched in the rear, with plucky Sergeant White, who had been the last man to leave Brooklyn Heights, again in charge of the hindmost gun. They wound along dusty lanes and through woods west of 8th Avenue, skirted the Murray cornfield, and met Washington at what is now Broadway and 43rd Street, where the Paramount Theater stands. A scant half-mile away stretched the cool green lawn of the Murray House. General Howe had not been especially eager to fight Americans, and when, on this hot noonday, Mrs. Murray invited him and his officers to stop for luncheon, the prospect was infinitely more entertaining. While he loitered gallantly at the table of his hostess, White's gun rumbled over the junction between Kingsbridge Road and the Bloomingdale Road, across the present Central Park, and through McGowan's Pass to safety. By so narrow a margin did they escape that their pursuers reached the junction before they were fully out of sight. The British now held the lower part of Manhattan Island, but the American forces still retained the upper end, and it was important that Washington should learn of Howe's plans. He called for a volunteer to enter the enemy territory, and a young captain named Nathan Hale offered to go. In the character of a schoolteacher, he made his way up through the Bronx into Connecticut, over to Long Island, and down to lower Manhattan, and obtained the needed information. Then, almost within reach of the American lines, he was recognized and captured. The following morning, condemned as a spy, he was led out to be hanged at the British Artillery Park near the Dove Tavern, at almost the northwest corner of 3rd Avenue and 66th Street. Fine death for a soldier, his captors are said to have jeered. I only regret, replied Nathan Hale, that I have but one life to give for my country. Words that have thrilled 5 generations of Americans.